Today on Rappler, North Korea says it will pull workers out of the Kaesong Joint Industrial Zone with South Korea. South Korea backtracks on its earlier report that the North is preparing a fourth nuclear test. And the approval ratings of top government officials in the Philippines rise in March in the latest Pulse Asia survey. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. North Korea says it will pull 53,000 workers out of the Kaesong Joint Industrial Zone with South Korea and suspend commercial operations. Senior ruling party official Kim Yang-gon blames the move on, quote, military warmongers seeking to make Kaesong a point of confrontation. He adds, quote, how the situation will develop in the days ahead will entirely depend on the attitude of the South Korean authorities. Since Wednesday, the North banned South Korean personnel from crossing the border to enter the complex about 10 kilometers inside North Korea. South Korea backtracks, saying it sees no fresh signs of North Korea preparing a fourth nuclear test. Its earlier report said the North appeared to be getting ready for a launch following intelligence reports of personnel and vehicle activity at the North's Pyongyang-ri atomic site. Defense Ministry spokesman Kim Min-sok backtracks, saying these, quote, appear to be usual routine activities. The South's Unification Ministry says another test did not appear to be, quote, imminent. The news follows a blunt call from China for restraint. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi tells UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon Beijing would not allow troublemaking on China's doorstep. Ban Ki-moon also urges North Korea to stop further threats. He adds, North Korea cannot go on like this, confronting and challenging the authority of the UN Security Council and the international community. Former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher dies after a stroke. She was 87. Known as the Iron Lady for her toughness and leadership style, she served 3 consecutive terms from 1979 to 1990. The former premier suffered from dementia and appeared rarely in public in recent years. She was the only female premier in British history. The approval ratings of top government officials in the Philippines rise in March, with Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile gaining back a majority approval rating. In its Ulat ng Bayan survey, Pulse Asia says 4 of the country's top 5 officials got significant bumps in their approval ratings in March. Vice President Jejomar Binay's approval ratings increased to 76% from 70%. Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile's ratings rise to 53% from 46%. House Speaker Feliciano Belmonte Jr.'s ratings rise to 33% from 26%. And Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno's ratings move to 32% from 26%. President Benigno Aquino also gained 4 percentage points, getting 72% approval rating in March from 68% in February. In their disapproval ratings, only Enrile had a significant change. His disapproval rating went down to 11% from 16% in February. Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno says only 9 petitions filed by partyless groups disqualified by the Commission on Elections should be remanded to the poll body. Sereno says the petitions of the 9 groups should be reconsidered because they were disqualified for failing to prove they were from marginalized sectors. In its April 5 decision, the Supreme Court said political parties do not have to represent marginalized sectors to participate in the party list elections. Sereno disagreed with the majority decision of the High Court. She said the party list system should be confined to the marginalized sector because social justice was the foundation of the 1987 Constitution. The 38 suspected members of the Royal Security Force of Sulu Sultan Jamalul Kiram III will stay in detention at the naval facility in Tawi-Tawi. Tawi-Tawi's acting judge issues a ruling that cuts their bail by 50% from 164,000 pesos to 82,000 pesos each. But Public Attorney's Office Chief Persida Acosta says it's a sum they still can't afford. Acosta represents the suspected RSF members. PAO earlier asked for 9,000 pesos bail to cover all 3 charges filed against them: violation of election gun ban, illegal possession of firearms, and inciting to war. The Department of Justice opposed the 3,000 peso bail, saying it is, quote, too low. In an earlier ruling, the court granted PAO's motion to reinvestigate the case, but the suspected RSF members will stay in detention unless they're able to post bail. Sulu Sultanate spokesman Abraham Ijirani earlier confirmed that 22 of the 38 arrested in Tawi-Tawi belong to the Royal Security Force. The 38 are currently detained at a naval facility in Panglima Sugala in Tawi-Tawi. One of the top destinations for Filipino workers is Singapore, with its expanding workforce and companies preferring to hire Filipinos. But there's a growing anti-foreigner sentiment, and the government is clamping down on non-Singaporean workers because of popular demand. Catherine Visconti reports.
The lines are always out the door at the first Jollibee in Singapore. You'd never know a group of Singaporeans online called for a boycott of the Philippines' most popular fast food restaurant. The petition condemns the chain for prioritizing Filipinos for jobs over Singaporeans. Jollibee denies this. It's normal to see a line like this one waiting to get into line. The real question is, how long will this last? The Singapore government is making it more difficult to hire foreign workers. It's slapping higher fees on employers who hire foreigners in some sectors. Come July, it's lowering the percentage of new foreign service workers from 45% to 40% of a company's workforce. And employers must start paying a higher minimum salary for mid-level workers. Renewing work applications is also now more difficult.
Mahirap yun ngayon. Mahirap na yun. Kasi maraming kumpanya rin na gusto mag-hire ng Filipino. Pero ang problema is yung work process.
Overseas Filipino workers in Singapore, like Liz Peruda, are feeling the pinch. Her husband's work pass wasn't approved. He visits her when he can and is looking for work in the Philippines.
Well, for Filipinos, I mean, even if we hold a good job, even if we hold a high-ranking job, even us, we're scared about when it's time to renew our passes. We still have that like 10% chance that it might not get approved. So we're just really taking advantage of whatever time we have here in Singapore.
The restrictions come as many Singaporeans worry that foreigners are taking their jobs and lowering their wages.
So it's important to understand this entire problem in the context in which it is worrying Singaporeans. That is, Singaporeans must come first. And if they can't do the job, if they are unable or unwilling, then it is okay to bring in foreigners.
Some residents blame foreigners for raising property prices and putting too much strain on existing infrastructure. Yet this megacity also needs foreigners to keep it running and take jobs Singaporeans don't want. The Singaporean population is aging, getting wealthier, and has a low birth rate, making foreign workers crucial to help bear the load. With the help of immigration, the Singapore government proposed boosting the population from 6.5 to 6.9 million by 2030. This was met by loud protests from Singaporeans, who are usually known to be more reserved. Singapore's strength has always been its foresight and planning. Now it needs to find a solution that responds to both public clamor and economic reality. Catherine Visconti, Rappler, Singapore.
Well, let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 3, China confirms 3 more cases of bird flu as authorities try to curb a deadly outbreak by banning live poultry sales and disinfecting schools. The new cases of the H7N9 strain of avian influenza bring the number recorded in China to 21. 6 people have died from the disease. Chinese authorities downplay fears of human-to-human transmission of the virus. The World Health Organization says it's crucial to find out how the virus infects humans. At number 4, a backroom deal between the CIA and Pakistan set the stage for a covert drone war that started under the Bush administration, grew and became a cornerstone of Barack Obama's war against terrorists, and is now the subject of a fierce debate. The New York Times says the United States used the Predator drone to attack and kill Nek Mohammed, a Pakistani enemy of the state, in 2004. Pakistan's military claimed credit for killing him. In exchange, Pakistan gave the U.S. permission to use its airspace to carry out drone attacks. And at number 5, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry meets with Palestinian leaders to talk about the Syrian crisis. His visit gives him a chance to restart Middle East peace negotiations that have been stalled for more than 2 years. Kerry is on a 10-day overseas trip, stopping first in Istanbul to meet with Turkish Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu. A State Department official says Kerry would encourage Turkey and Israel to normalize their relations to allow for deeper cooperation. Talks between Turkish officials and Kerry will also include the issue of Syrian refugees, as Turkey keeps its borders open to people fleeing the conflict. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. For the first time in the history of the Palarong Pambansa, the private sector will be giving financial rewards to exceptional athletes. Education Secretary Armin Luistro says, quote, "This is another facet of public-private partnership. We don't just build classrooms for them, we also help build their character through sports development." DepEd receives pledges in cash and in kind from the private sector amounting to over 2 million pesos to be given as incentives to top-performing athletes. The financial reward will be given on top of the usual medal and trophy. There are also scholarship offers for athletes who will stand out in selected games. The 2013 Palarong Pambansa will be held in Dumaguete City, Negros Oriental from April 21 to 27. Over 10,000 elementary and secondary school students from public and private schools nationwide will participate in the games. Stay on Rappler for the results of Palarong Pambansa. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page. That crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories which have gotten the most number of votes through the day, giving you the stories that have affected Filipinos. If we take a look today, you've got technology and politics. Strangely enough, tech wrap, iPad mini versus Galaxy Note 8, 60% happy. But even here, you can see a red, 7% angry. The story that's gotten the most number of votes is an election story. Be nice, nothing wrong with 4 of us in government. 75% angry, along with these other election stories. Take a look. Today, most people are angry. Well, that's Rappler's Newscast for today, Monday, April 8, 2013. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.